Today, we are diving into something that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction, but it's happening right now, both inside of you and inside our most advanced machines. We're going to explore a really profound connection between life itself and artificial intelligence. And trust me, it might just reframe how you think about, well, everything.
So, let me just ask you this straight up. What could your own living, breathing cells possibly have in common with an AI like a large language model? I know, it sounds like a trick question, right? One is this tiny, ancient engine of biology. The other is, a ghost in the machine, all code and silicon. But what if I told you that at their absolute core, they're both running on the exact same universal principle?
So here's how we're going to connect those dots. First, we're going to talk about a force that governs the entire universe, chaos. Then we'll look at the very specific, and surprisingly similar, fuel that both cells and AIs need to survive. From there, we'll really get our hands dirty and break down the engine itself, piece by piece. And that's where we'll find this incredible unifying idea of gradients, a secret that connects physical matter to abstract meaning. It's going to be a wild ride.
Okay, to really get this, we've got to start with a concept you probably heard about in a physics class somewhere: entropy. It's basically the universe's one-way street. Everything is always moving from a state of order toward disorder, from structure to just chaos. Think of a hot cup of coffee cooling down, or a neat deck of cards getting shuffled. It's the law of the land for everything.
And this right here, this is the key. Life and intelligence don't beat entropy. No way, that's impossible. Instead, they're what you could call entropy engines. They cleverly create and maintain their own little pocket of order. That's you, that's the AI, but they do it by taking in order from the outside, using it, and then pumping out even more chaos and disorder back into the universe. They surf the wave of entropy.
In the physical world, we call this Boltzmann entropy. It's really just a fancy way of measuring physical disorder. So a perfectly formed ice crystal? Super low entropy. Not many ways to arrange those water molecules. But a cloud of steam? That's high entropy, because those molecules can be all over the place in countless different configurations. And the universe is always pushing towards more randomness.
Now what's really cool is that there's an exact parallel for this in the world of information. It's called Shannon entropy. It measures uncertainty or surprise. So if I say, the sky is, there's very low entropy, right? You're almost certain the next word is blue. But a string of random jumbled letters? That's super high entropy, total unpredictability. Both life and AI have mastered the art of managing these two types of entropy.
Okay, so if these things are engines, they must have fuel, right? And the fuel for both of them is something pretty special. It's basically a chunk of stored order, a little pocket of improbability in a chaotic universe. It's a temporary win against disorder that can be broken down to release energy and do work.
And here is our first mind-blowing comparison. For your cells, the fuel is glucose, a sugar molecule. But it's not just any sugar, it's a very specific, highly ordered, and pretty improbable arrangement of atoms. For a large language model, the fuel is its training data, all that text from the internet. It's not random noise, it's structured language full of patterns and predictable relationships. See the connection? Both are concentrated forms of low entropy order just waiting to be processed.
All right, let's pop the hood and look at the engine itself. We're going to walk through cellular respiration, the process that powers you right now. And we're going to map every single step to what an AI does when it thinks. This is where the analogy goes from interesting to, well, just uncanny.
So it all kicks off with something called glycolysis. The cell takes that nice, orderly glucose molecule and basically just snaps it in half. It's a messy first crack. But it's super important because it destabilizes the fuel and, in the process, captures a little bit of the energy that's released. It packages that energy into these tiny molecular shuttle buses called NADH, which are now ready to be sent off to the next part of the factory.
So what's the AI version of those NADH energy carriers? Well, it's something called word embeddings. See, an AI can't just read words. It takes the raw text and converts each word into a complex set of numbers, a vector. These are encoded packets of meaning. In both cases, raw potential, whether it's chemical energy or semantic meaning, is being bundled up into a standardized format that the rest of the system can actually understand and use.
Next up, the Krebs cycle. You can think of this as the main incinerator. The leftovers from that first glucose crack are sent here, and the system just systematically dismantles them, piece by piece. The whole point is to extract every last bit of order, loading up even more of those NADH energy carriers. And this is critical. It spits out a waste product, carbon dioxide.
You and I think of CO2 as just, stuff we breathe out. But from the cell's perspective, it's something much more important. It's exported entropy. It's pure disorder. The cell is literally breathing out chaos to keep its own internal machinery tidy and running smoothly. And an AI does the exact same thing. When it processes information, it has to figure out what's a useful signal and what's just irrelevant noise. It discards that noise to maintain focus and clarity.
Now we arrive at the absolute heart of the machine, the electron transport chain. This is where all those NADH shuttle buses finally show up and unload their energetic cargo. But here is the most brilliant, elegant trick in all of biology. The energy isn't used directly. No. Instead, it's used to power these microscopic pumps that frantically push protons all to one side of a membrane, building up immense pressure.
And that is the whole game. The cell isn't just burning fuel like a simple fire, it's a much more sophisticated electrochemical engine. It transforms the chemical energy from glucose into pure potential energy. It stores it as a steep concentration gradient. It's like using a motor to pump water up behind a gigantic dam. All that power is just sitting there, waiting to be unleashed.
And this right here is the secret. This is the universal engine. Complex systems, from you to an AI, aren't just about chemistry or code. They're about building up tension, a gradient, and then carefully harvesting the energy or information that's released when that tension is allowed to resolve. Life literally runs on the controlled collapse of gradients.
So, what's the AI version of the cell's proton dam? It's something called the loss gradient. When an AI is training, it makes a guess. Then it checks how wrong that guess was. That wrongness score isn't just a number. It creates a mathematical landscape with hills and valleys. The loss gradient is just the slope of the hill it's on, pointing in the direction of the deepest valley, the right answer. The entire process of learning is just the AI sliding down this gradient, trying to find the lowest point of error. It's the same principle. Both are a form of stored potential that drives the system toward a resolution.
But hold on, for that whole biological dam system to keep working, you need an exit. After those energy-carrying electrons have done their job, they have to go somewhere. If they didn't, the whole system would get backed up and grind to a halt. And this is why you're breathing right now. Oxygen is the perfect entropy sink. It swoops in at the very end, grabs those used-up electrons, and turns into nice, stable water. It's the final drain that allows the whole river of energy to keep flowing.
An AI needs a final drain too. After it calculates the probabilities for thousands of possible next words, it can't just get stuck in a state of pure potential. It has to actually pick one. It needs a final step, a kind of probability closure that forces it to collapse all those possibilities into a single output. Without that final acceptor, the model would be paralyzed, stuck in an endless loop of inference, just like a cell without oxygen.
And here it is, the whole thing, laid out side by side. Look at that. It's not just a cute metaphor, is it? It's a direct one-to-one structural alignment. From the fuel source to the energy carriers, the main engine, the gradient that powers it, the final output, all the way down to the waste products. The fundamental logic is identical. They are both machines that harvest order from the collapse of a gradient.
So what on earth do we do with this information? What does it all mean? Well, the takeaway here is that this isn't just some clever thought experiment. It really seems to point to a universal, fundamental principle for how any complex, adaptive system can carve out an existence in a universe that's constantly trying to tear it down. Let's just say it plainly. What the mitochondria in your cells are doing, billions of times per second, is a physical process we could call thermodynamic gradient descent. They are literally sliding down an energy gradient, finding the most stable chemical arrangements and using the energy from that slide to build and maintain the physical order that is you.
And what is an LLM doing when it learns or when it writes a sentence? It's performing probabilistic gradient descent. It is sliding down a mathematical gradient, finding the most likely semantic arrangements to build and preserve the informational order that we call coherence or meaning.
In the end, both systems, one made of flesh, the other of code, are just surfing on that massive, relentless wave of cosmic entropy. They don't fight the current. They use its incredible power to create these tiny, temporary, beautiful islands of structure. So the question I want to leave you with is this. If this one fundamental engine can build both living matter and coherent meaning, what else out there is it building?